Hello, welcome to the War Game. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Stream Street Day 2 Summit. At this stage, hello, I'm joined by Nick. Hi, Nick. How you doing?
Hello, doing great. How are
Good.
yourself?
Where are we calling you in from today?
Well, I'm currently in Berlin. That's where I live and work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not German though. I'm originally Ukrainian, but I've been living in Germany for like 9 years now.
Is this because you're a Russian asset trying to overthrow the government, or just because you like to travel around?
I am not allowed to disclose this information.
Perfect.
Please, next question.
Why not both? So Nick's calling today. Today we're going to talk about hobby, theming armies, and generally just trying to get creative in the hobby space. I'm going to be talking to him. We're going to be showing some images of armies he's created, and then I'm going to be just throwing my 10 cents in on that. But before we do get started, I want to say a big special thank you to everyone in the chat. Fingers up. Diadrin, A Fear of Monkeys, Darker Design, What's Going On, Gitley, Evening, Morning, sorry, so sorry, and MJ Pixies, What's Going On. So yeah, thanks for joining us, Nick. I really, really appreciate it. You also have drawn some art for the show before. You're a pretty phenomenal designer, in my opinion. When did you start learning how to draw?
Well, hello, chat. I've been drawing my whole life. That's like a standard answer, but I have high education in architecture, so I had a lot of academic drawing and just, I worked on it all the time, and I'm a tattoo artist, so I draw every day for work, and for myself, so this is not a problem for me. And I've been in a hobby since, 15, 16 years now?
Okay, so quite a while.
Yeah,
How did you get into the hobby?
Well, it was back in Ukraine, in Kiev, where I lived. I saw, it's a funny story because I first saw Warhammer like sold from a stall on the street. And they were selling the metal miniatures, which they were, making themselves. They were making shapes and then like making these models, and they were selling them like this little teen soldier, that it was not connected to any rules. It was just cool soldiers. And then I found out that there was actually a store in the club, and I went there, and of course I bought Space Marines like every kid ever did. Mm-hmm. And that's how it all started.
I can't believe they were selling them on a market. That's really fun.
It was just like a little wooden table, and dude was selling this. I think there were dwarves and a big elven dragon, if you remember. There were this like serpent-like dragons. Yeah, those. Yeah, so
that's fun. That's going to be pretty eye-catching to a kid, especially.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, that's interesting. We have. I don't know if you had these growing up, but we have something in the UK called car boot sales, where basically you find loads of rubbish in your house. Then you drive to a market, and then you put out a table, and then you try to flog them for like very small amounts of money, like almost it's almost worth not driving there really to do the
like
car
booting.
Flea
market sort of.
Yeah, like a flea market. Yeah, car booting. Yeah.
Oh, well, that was not the case though, because it was on this kind of art market there, and the guy was selling them, as I said, like he had the whole table was loads of different ones. They were all fantasy. There was no 40K on his stall, but still I have some of those, like even the bases, the square bases, they were all of metal because he just formed them all together.
That's wild. Did you like the club? The club was in Ukraine, right? I assume.
Yeah. It was in an apartment.
It was in an apartment.
Yes.
Amazing. Really into that. See, I'm fascinated when I remember once doing an interview on Warhammer Live, and I was just like, let me know where you're tuning in from. And some guy was like, oh, I'm in Mexico, but I can't get to my local Games Workshop because there's been an earthquake. And I remember like sitting in Nottingham is a very boring city, really, apart from all the rampant bow crime. And it's not overly interesting. So when I do hear it, like I'm now fascinated and I want to be teleported to that place. I want to see what the club was like. I'm quite interested in all these different locations, right? And communities. Was it a large community? Does Ukraine have a large Warhammer scene?
I'm guessing it's bigger now, but back 15, 16 years, not so many. We were around maybe 10, 15 people of like constant players, and we were also spread between 40k and fantasy.
Hmm.
So, but a lot of it, because we were so small, many of us played both.
Yes.
And it's funny also, like in terms of hobby and painting, we were on our own. There was all we could look is like White Dwarf magazines, but and maybe Cool Mini or not, but we didn't have a big scene. Nobody could teach how to paint. You just.
And I guess maybe a little bit too early for YouTube, maybe like a tiny bit.
Oh yeah. That was none of that. Like the highlight was Cool Mini or not. That was the highlight of like miniature painting for all of us.
Wow. Okay, because there's a lot of like that part of the world is like a bedrock of like creativity. In my opinion, there's a lot of like incredible art that comes out of that kind of area. There's a lot of like a lot of I'm not exactly certain where Tabletop Worlds, who make some terrain, are based, but I think they're based. They might be based in Ukraine actually, like because I ordered from them a long time ago. But there's like generally there's a lot, and also like the competitive teams. Like I'm always like told about the kind of like Baltic-ish regions when they like go and compete at like ETC, WTC, those sorts of things. It's generally like, while maybe not a massive community, like it's like a hard, ardent community who is like very, very focused and dedicated to what they do, which like has always impressed me, and I like. And some of my favorite anyway, I could go on a tangent forever about this. I do think there is generally. And it's quite nice, like hearing about some of that. So you started off with Marines. Was that just because you saw the Marines, or was there anything else that really took your
because
fancy?
I was 15 years old, and I just opened this 40k, and Marines were striking image at that time. And I remember I got this battle force that I assembled with the most cool looking weapons. I had no idea. I didn't read the rules yet. That I decided to prime them, and I just went to a hardware store and bought a white primer, which was actually for fridges, so it had ammo paint. So I, I sprayed them with that, and they all got like a carapace of glossy paint, and I couldn't put any paint on top of that anymore because it was just sliding down.
That's great.
I still, I think, have those polished white Marines.
Maybe there's a way to recover them. I'm not sure. Okay,
That's
so
everlasting.
so did you would you consider yourself more of a hobbyist or more of a gamer? Like where have you like settled?
At this point, I'm more of a hobbyist. So I can give you like a little brief of my hobby and competitive years. So I started with the Marines, and then I got Space Orcs, and it's back in that battle tome, where you had units and had no miniatures for them. They were just Scar Boys. These are the rules for them. How they look, nobody fucking knows. And then same with the vehicles. Battle Wagon. How does a battle wagon knows? Nobody knows. And you had to convert everything. Which is a funny story. There was a Russian team on a tournament. So they converted a battle wagon, which was very, very long.
Right.
And then at the first round, they would do a free pivot and disembark in your deployment zone and charge you first time, because there was no rules how this looks. So they were like, yeah, that's how my battle wagon looks.
Good.
People could
Good.
get creative,
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that completely. And so that inspired you? Is that what kicked off your?
I sold my works. I basically sold all my 40k because I got very kind of disappointed in the rules. They were becoming more simple and simple, and you had to invest more and more money to like stay relevant and competitive. Then I switched to fantasy battles, and it was, I think, 6th edition. Yeah, that time it was 6th edition. We played a lot of that. And then we switched the club because we had some fallout with the owner a little bit. And we discovered different systems. We found War Machine,
Mm-hmm.
which was a very good system at that time. I don't know. I heard now it's total crap, but at that time it was very good.
Mm.
And I played for many years War Machine, like going on competitive events, going to other countries. I played in France, I played in Austria, in Germany, Russia, Belarus. Belarus, by the way, has a very nice community of gamers.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then I
Some
moved
more
to
deep state
yeah.
propaganda, but
Yeah,
like
I
I
know.
believe you.
It's supported by the state.
Okay, that's fun.
The miniatures are approved. Uh, so, yeah, and then I stopped the whole hobby thing for about 7 years because I moved to Germany. I finished my education, then I switched to tattooing, so there was no time for that. And then last year in spring, I was passing by a Game Workshop store, and I was like, I kind of fucking miss it. Came in and saw all the new miniatures and stuff. Saw the new system,
Mm-hmm.
which was kind of skirmish based. That what sold it to me because I didn't want to do huge armies again. And I got Nurgle, and that's how it started.
Yeah.
And
So,
uh,
what is it that made you to pick up Nurgle? Was it just how they looked?
I really liked the look of the Maggotkin, the Blight Kings
Yeah.
and stuff. And at that time, I looked at them, then I picked up some magazines, and and I checked online all the range, and then I had like an idea. Oh, I have a cool way that I can theme my army, and I was thinking of this Yellow King, the cult of the Yellow King. If anybody of you guys watched
True
the True
Detective.
Detective,
Mm-hmm.
this kind of Louisiana bayou and stuff. So
It's
that's what I
kind of.
wanted.
I feel like it's kind of. I feel like it's kind of based off that anyway, right? Like there's that kind of like Swedish horror where it's like the stuff in the forest and like the antlers and that side. And I feel like a lot
Exactly.
of
And it like, kind of asked for it, like it was perfect.
yeah. I definitely
Slime
feel
and
that's
everything.
yeah. I definitely feel that's like an intentional part of the aesthetic that was aimed toward at least a tad like that garden-esque kind of like I don't know about the southern drawl, but maybe
Yeah,
that kind of work.
and then then I read the fluff from the book, and they say like, yeah, this there was this great unclean one that was known as the bringer of rain or bringer of wells, and then they found out that it's actually a demon and stuff like this. So I figured, yeah, why cannot they worship King in Yellow, and it's just a huge um, great unclean one just painted in yellow himself, to create this cult around him.
Okay, yeah. So I've got a picture of that. I think. Hold on, and I'll show you because one of the things we're going to talk about is theming your armies, which is something actually I'm quite invested in as well. I know you guys know that I'm not the hobbyist extraordinaire. That oh wait, did I? I should have a picture in this set you sent me, or have I not?
Of that one, I don't think so. But if you
Oh, okay.
want, I can
No, it's okay.
send
It's
you.
fine. It's fine. But you started out doing like all yellow, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then I got some more of the plague monks, and then they all got yellow hoods and all this. So it's like you're having this theme throughout your whole army. So I made like after that I have 4 painted armies, and I'm working on the 5th one, and they all are themed
Mm-hmm.
in different way. And for myself, I kind of made this little very easy to follow chart how my thought process of simming army goes.
Okay.
So first off, you choose the army you like, obviously. For example, I went with ogre moor tribes because I felt they're cool.
Mm-hmm.
Big meaty guys on huge monsters, blah blah blah. And then they
Just
have
dad bods for days. That's all
yeah,
you want, really. Yeah.
yeah, big sweaty men boobs. Everybody loves that. And although they're sweaty, they're followed by winter, which is
Weird.
weird, yeah. And they can be in any realm. They can be in Akshi and still followed by winter. How does that work? Nobody knows. Fantasy. So the realm is another thing that can help you to kind of create the overall look of the whole army. You don't have to. Yeah. For example, this is I wanted mine to be from Giran, so the green theme, but also then okay, it's all lush and green and full of life, but then again we need something like winter. So what about a tundra? So there is this a bit of both going on in there, and they eat everything, so they can eat the realm stone which is green. So the carapace parts also get this greenish glow. And on the weapon, if they're made of stone, they're made of this green kind of jade-like stone. So there is this little thing that kind of help you to build up this whole thing and bring it all together. And it doesn't require much.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, no, it's very much like how they create the models, and I'm sure anyone who's listening knows. But one of the things that they often do, like, is they'll tell stories for why that, like, they'll have like a potion pot on their hip or be carrying a book or whatever the fuck, like when they're actually designing the models. So there's actually all that narrative that goes in before, like they put the model, like they actually sculpt it, and then, like, when it comes to painting, I feel like the narrative does lend itself quite heavily to being able to give us loads of indication for what colour stuff might be. Like, for instance, but then similarly, I also go down the same route. Like, I'm painting some Inceptors at the minute, and I've just sprayed them silver, and then I'm just picking out panels black, and I'm like, that'll be me done. Like that, they're good enough. Like, so
that's the thing, yeah.
Yeah,
you don't need to overcomplicate things. I'm a very lazy hobbyist myself.
It doesn't look that lazy. It looks pretty good.
Well, thank you, but it was not too much effort. That's the thing. Like, I don't spend too much time on models.
Do you have like a hard and fast rule for how long you're going to spend on each model?
Yeah, until I'm bored. So it's like, and the time is not much. Of course, on the heroes you spend a bit more time, but whenever you have to paint 20 goblins, you don't want to go crazy on them.
No, I mean, unless you're Nathan Prescott, in which case you do check marks on every single.
None of us is Nathan Prescott. I'm sorry. Like, to be fair,
we all agree. We all agree. I like that this is unofficially the Nathan Prescott like fan show at this stage.
It is. It went that way organically, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. So when you're coming up with like the story for that, do you end up writing it out? Do you go to like source material and read stuff? What's your process?
No, I just I spend some time with the idea, and then I go through internet and like these hobby websites, and check for some inspirations, and then just check for materials that would work with that. Luckily, sorry, you're laughing about something?
Yeah, I'm laughing. John,
am I saying something funny?
No. Gitli in the chat. Gitli in the chat has decided to go on all of the different platforms we're streaming on and start leaving, like, and become omnipresent Gitli. He's ascended and he's now on 4 platforms at once, leaving messages.
That's some dedication.
That's pretty serious. Or it's just 4 tabs. It's one of those 2 things. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, and in terms of theming army with a color scheme, which I usually choose one prevalent color.
Mm-hmm.
And then some complementary colors, like with this one, it's green. And then, usually it's browns and metallics to make it more not too bright and, flashy. And then I think of the bases. And for me, bases is what sells the theme of the army quite often.
Now, you and me are on the same page. I'm like, I think it's 50% of the model. That could be because I'm not a particularly good painter, so I don't really like give the model a lot of oomph. So, like, but I do think that, like, the base, like, really does sell the model and ties an army together really nice, which allows you to go, like, super weird on creating some of the other elements of your army. Like, as long as the base all ties in, that works super well.
That's exactly what I mean. Like, the different heroes and, different units can have difference in the painting, but if they all have the same thing on what they're standing on, it's the same cohesive army. That's an amazing model, by the way.
Thanks. I was just trying to show, like, all my core and all my chaos stuff for Age of Sigmar is all just on the same lava basin. So if I want to do any, like, if I want to, like, put a new model into the range or ally something in for gaming, I think basing is one of those things that's really important to talk about. Also, just because if you're building an army to play with, it's really important. Like, if you're building an Ogre More Tribes army, you might want to put one of those models and an ally into a Gitz army. So you would have to think about maybe what your destruction army's basing is going to be over maybe a single army. Have you ever thought that, or do you generally tend to go for one army and then another army?
That's the tricky part for me, because I tend to theme them very hard. And whenever I have, for example, an endless spell that has to go from one army to another, it falls off of that seam. If I make, a base, a Giran base for, I don't know, a pendulum, and then I want to use it in my Stormcast army, which is seamed in the desert,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, ah, shit, do I really have to buy a whole new set and like to have a set of endless spells for each of my armies? But yeah, I'm not going that far. That's that's
Yeah,
too much for me.
I just put the lava based ones out, and I'm just like, there you go. They're like, oh, it's a different. I'm like, that's magic. That's magic lava.
Yeah.
That's where they've appeared from.
The portal opened and the thing came with the ground.
Yeah,
that's how it happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
killing you. No time for questions. Yeah.
So you think of your story, then you think of the key color that you want the army to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then where do we go from there? Oh, basic, of course.
Basing? Yeah, I don't do much conversions. I'm not very good at sculpting, so I'm more of kit basher. So yeah, bases for me is what selling the seam, and like if you go through some of the pictures of the ogres, there are like little details on those bases, like on the Huskard. There's like little icicles on the base made from melted plastic and stuff. This, like, I usually have more fun basing the miniatures than painting them,
Same. Like I find basing to be very, very fun. And like so Tristan in the chat is just saying that he does an evolving narrative for his armies. So the basing is all similar but with different pieces of flair, which I think is also like a nice because you can especially on the larger models like the Stonehorns and Thuntus, you can almost diorama it if you really want to. Add a cheeky grot on there, a cheeky Nurglin. Big shout out to Scriver doing the Nurglin every day, by the way. You can do more with it. My Archeon, for instance, is on a piece of terrain. I hate him on the tail. I think it looks dumb. So I mounted him on a piece of terrain, and I think that's a fun thing to do sometimes. Is explore how you're going to mount the model more so sometimes than the actual model. It's because you can't really do much with the model. I mean, you can like kit bash and convert it and do things. But the model's the model, right? You buy the model because you want to paint that model how it looks. But everything around that's your creative area, I think, maybe.
On the German GTS, there was a guy with Chaos Army, and his Archeon was literally standing on a huge fort that was melting into lava, and there were like Stormcast and demons killing each other on the same, like, it was twice the size of the actual Archeon. Like, it was insane, and he was playing with that model.
Wow.
Okay. He had a whole like box just for that one. It was insane, and yeah,
it's like when you see eels. I very rarely see eels anymore on the sticks. I often see them on some sort of plinth, or someone's done something, or they've done them in the water or whatever it might be. And I sometimes think that those basing choices are also made on a functionality kind of like decision as well. It's not just because they want them to be themed in a certain way, although I think that's important. Sometimes there's also like, how can I make these more viable? Like KO boats and the airships are the obvious example, right? Because those sticks suck.
Or transport them. That's another big thing.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, go move those around. And I feel like the flying bases especially, they have this problem, these transparent things which are supposed to be invisible, but everybody sees them, and it's kind of ruining it a little bit, the whole feel of the model. So that's why I think with eels as well, like they kind of try to attach them to some piece of terrain that comes out, to keep them still flying, but
So yeah, the narrative of them floating in the sea is weird.
Yeah. Man, can you imagine? I just thought about it, to have the whole eel army and have them in a desert and have just put them on the bases and have like a little wiggly thing in the sand behind them, so they are just like going through the sand,
like a little sand,
like snakes. They're just like
they would look a lot like Tomb Kings then. A lot like Tomb Kings.
Put the undead guys on top of them. There you go, a crazy seamed army.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's sand, it's gur, and yeah, whatever.
I oftentimes really enjoy the justification, although the Merchant Prince has made a suggestion in the chat, which, now, listen, this is 100% his idea, and I want to say this publicly right now, but
I'll steal it, don't worry.
as of tomorrow, it's 100% the idea I came up with. So right now, the Merchant Prince is 100%. As of tomorrow, my idea forever. He said that he might do a Carriage on Overlord's army, but like, make it into a Chaos Dwarf army. Like, and now, obviously, I'm 100%. That's stolen. I've just stolen it. I've just realised. Why don't I get all of my Chaos Dwarves and just play them as Cities of Sigmar? Chaos Dwarf Cities of Sigmar. You've just made me a new army. There's a theme. Thank you so much.
You know, I don't know who this merchant is, but I heard this idea from you, so
I heard this idea from me. Thank you so much to myself. I'm really happy with that.
You know, you just articulated it, you know.
So sorry, again, the chat says...
the camera.
Yeah, I know. Wait, put all your army on flying bases, every infantry represent. I would like to see... Because surely, this is the weird thing about the... Can I just talk about this for a moment? The Eidneth. I get it. So there's the wave on the Eidolons. There's the sharks that are floating, the turtles floating. That all makes sense. Why are the thralls not swimming is the confusing part for me. Like... Yeah.
Just in the air, just paddling with their hands and feet. Just
yeah, they've just got blades on their feet that they like slash with or something.
Amazing. There you go. You're getting into it.
Anyway, sorry. Please continue what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah. For example, I did also during the last lockdown in spring. I picked up Bonesplitter's army. I think they're narratively amazingly cool and completely bonkers, and I like the idea of this crusading fanatics of Drugfoot. Is like, oh, you don't believe in Mork? Smack, you know. And it's like, and they come from Akshi, and Akshi is probably the easiest one to do because it's lava. But for me, since I see lava, it's like, oh, you're playing whatever army, but you're playing Fire Slayers, right? Because lava.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like so I was thinking, okay, how can I do something like fire realm but not goddamn lava again?
Mm-hmm.
And again, in their narrative they say like, oh yeah, in each realm there is everything, you know. There are oceans in Akshi, and there are volcanoes in Giran, and blah blah blah, whatever. So I mean, I would love to see snow in Akshi, but nevertheless, I was like, okay, let's go with something like a jungle, but this highly like tropical jungle that you can relate to this fire hot area. So I went with bright colors, bright flowers and everything. Still, it's a jungle, but I think it has this feel. You probably won't think immediately of Akshi, but still you can understand that it's not Uglu, that's for sure, you know.
Yeah. I guess I know obviously you're all personally attacking me because obviously in my head the realm of fire is just lava forever. But
yes, I agree.
But like it's very much like, you know, they always describe like the redhead people of Ashwi. I've got to learn to say that properly, the right way around. Finally, after 5 years,
naked dwarves, of course. What else?
Yeah, but they you would like, it's not just fire, is it? Like those kind of red tones, and even ginger is like, I don't know if ginger is an actual official color. But those are the sorts of like ways to think through the realm of fire without being like super on the nose, like I am sometimes, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, even if narratively you want it to be from, or for example for artifacts or some other reason, well, now it doesn't matter really. Nobody cares for realms anymore.
No, but I still think I don't think anyone ever themed their army, like as in the basing, based on a realm for tournaments. I don't think that was the case. I think they do. I think there's something inherent. I don't know about you. Like, the thing I've really enjoyed about the Marathi book so far, and the Cities of Sigmar, and a lot of the recent Age of Sigmar narrative, they've started to create the world for me. Like, I understand that there's a place. Like, you know, the realms are a good start, right? You would see lava basing, you were like, they're from the realm of fire. life
Ouch.
sort.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. What I'm trying to say is they did create like a meta setting, and now they've created specific settings, and then that's actually really helped us, I think, like start to design these armies. Like, oh, these are our Anvil Guard guys, and these are our Halahart guys, and then that basing's the place they're from. Like, it's so important. Like,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. Like, you can, it helps to tie it all together, and helps to give this theme to the army, and then you can say, okay, I want them from Gur, and then you read what Gur is, and it kind of helps you to go further in that direction. Kind of the narrative will help you with your conversions or painting schemes and stuff like this. Maybe if you're very fluff player, even with the composition of the army, but that's something else. you know.
you're a special type who
Yeah,
probably at this
you're.
stage doesn't frequent the show.
Bless your heart, I would say that.
I know. I think I actually don't think. I don't think that the narrative and the competitive are divorced. I'm gonna this is my absolute credo now. There's no way. You tell the story very much like you're talking about here. You've expressed that you've been a competitive gamer in some of these games, and you've also taken some of these armies to tournaments as well. Most of us have, but it doesn't mean we can't be involved with the story or proud of what we create to put on the tabletop. I don't think they're divorced at all. I think it's very rare that even a competitive gamer doesn't have some sort of story for their army. I do think that that's weird.
No, totally agree with you. And I mean, of course, there are competitive players that go, they check, okay, what's kick-ass this meta exactly, and I will get the most broken list, and I'll go with that. And then next month, the meta shifted, and it takes completely different army, completely different list. That there is this level of competitive gaming, of course. But a lot of competitive gamers, I'm sure you know more about it since you pay attention to the tournaments more than me. But from your streams, I found out that there is these players that are hardcore on one army, and then they know everything about it, and they would make competitive lists with it and perform really well on the events. So I'm sure, since they're sold in this army, of course their army is themed the way they like it.
Even in 40k, my Mechanicum army is from a specific place. It's Ryzen. So and I've got that backstory to it as well. We love killing orcs. That's our thing, which is nice to go against my orc army in the theme in my head. I think it's quite rare that people don't really get involved in the story element as well as the theme. Which is nice, and especially when you are at a tournament and you get drawn up against the enemy. I know basically everyone's the enemy, but it's quite fun when you've got the Stormcast, you're up against Archeon, for instance, and you're yes, this is our time finally to defeat the guy. Even if
he comes and breaks their faces because Archeon. But Galmaraz just bounces off his armor
Yep, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
No.
And,
but then it never has worked in the narrative yet, so it would be unnarrative for him to win that fight.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you see, we're still in narrative realm here. And for example, the last army that I did was this Chaos Stormcast, which was really fun one to do because I had this idea of a list of Starcast, but I really don't like Stormcast as an idea, because that was something that I really didn't like in Age of Sigmar, is that they created this Stormcast, which is carbon copy of Space Marines, and that's what you sell, to kids.
Everyone in the chat triggered. I'd agree. They are the heresy stuff's cool. Can we at least admit that that's cool? That's sexy.
No, you see, before in fantasy battles, the good guys, and I mean good guys
in brackets,
Warhammer way, where you had the Bretonnians and you had Empire. But it's very hard to introduce a kid to an army. Okay, there is 20 same guys, and you have to paint them, and they have to look like an army. And by the way, you need 80 of them. It's
That's true.
At which point a kid would get bored, probably after the fifth one. And then you have these cool looking big models, shiny, easy to paint. You have a golden spray, boom, you're done and you can play and everything. So marketing wise, of course, I understand the choice, but we're a little bit above the age 10. So, and yet I really liked this list and I wanted to play it.
Yeah.
So I had to do something backwards with it. So I went with like a chaos possessed Stormcast chamber, and that let me go wild with the conversions. Well, it's mostly kid bashes and stuff.
Yeah, I really like this actually. It's the first time I've seen like a Chaos Warrior head on a Stormcast model. That looks awesome.
Every single model there is converted. If you click through them, there is a Croak. There are two what their name Drakes, which I absolutely despise the original model because it has this broken ankle weird thing. So I used the Carnosaurs.
Yes.
Yeah, for those with some Tyrannid Hive Tyrant wings.
I've got a picture. Hold on, I'm putting it up for everyone. There we go. So this is as a Dracoth. Star Drake.
Star Drake. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's quite see. Generally, it's frowned upon. Generally, it's frowned upon to use to have a Chaos force as your Stormcast force, for instance. Generally, but I don't know who the fuck's frowning on it. Like thinking about it now, honestly, chaosifying a Stormcast army, making it all grim and dark, but still using the rules. I don't really know how that would confuse anyone. If I was 100% honest.
On a tournament, it was totally fine. Okay. I was, I think one player asked, did you show it to the organizers? And I said, yeah, everything was cool. So it was cool with him as well. I don't know, maybe some very official Games Workshop tournament can have a question or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, so if I can go off on a tangent for a second, if you don't mind, I think one of the worrying elements about the future is Games Workshop officially sanctioned tournaments, because it's going to really stifle creativity. If they're no, this wouldn't be acceptable at a tournament, for what their reasoning is not because it would confuse your opponent, because that's bollocks. That's the lie to sell the truth. The truth being that they just want you to buy those models and use those models. Creature Caster do a beautiful Greater Demon alternative models.
That was amazing.
Yeah, amazing. And if someone was pushing those towards me, I'd be like, sweet. What's that? Keep a secret. No problem. I got that. It's on the right size base. We're all good. I think the scary element in the future is those officially sanctioned tournaments. And I'm not trying to be a naysayer. I'm just I'm representing the community and the hobby as a whole. And I think it would be detrimental to the hobby as opposed to positive for the hobby. Because now looking at this, and thanks to the Merchant Prince who copied my idea, the idea of running a Chaos Cities army is right up my street now in my head. Also means I don't have to rebase my endless spells, which is super important.
I know.
Is there a
You're
slam
genius
there?
to come up with this idea on the fly. It's
Thank you so much.
Mind blowing.
Is that a slan that I see? What's the slan pretending to be?
It's Croak. It was the times that Croak was unavailable. You cannot buy it anywhere. So I got a Croak from my local Games Workshop store. Mm-hmm. By the way, shout out to Berlin Games Workshop 2. Amazing people, very dedicated to the hobby. They're not just, selling you miniatures. Really, really cool people.
What's the store manager there? Is it the guy with the long hair?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Not the guy I'm thinking of then.
One is bald, one has short hair, so quite the opposite.
Well, maybe he shaved his head.
Yeah.
Anyway, but what they were really complimentary and helpful in trying to create.
Yeah, they got me this Tyrant wings. They got me the Slan. That I just had to clean off the old paint job, and then I put the golden mask on it. And now it's Croak and it's all gray and dead, and I put some bandages on top of it. Again, there was never a problem.
No, but
You
you
know.
use him as Croak, yes, because
Yes,
he's not. Yeah.
definitely. Who the
Okay.
hell uses normal slan? Come on.
No,
Did you
you're
open that
right.
book?
Croak is a much better slan. He looks way cooler. Yeah, way cooler. Okay, yeah, fascinating. So, like, have you got like lots of projects in your head? Is it like a question of time to create these individually, or do you want to expand any of them? Like, where do you see it going?
Well, I think I'm done with Stormcast because I don't like them. So I have this list fully done, and I don't think it will change in any way. So that's all cool. And now I told you I'm working on this army of Flesh Eater Squad that I was inspired from your podcast, the shouting one, the minus bravery shouting one.
Yes, the Benjamin spoke about.
Yeah, I'm working on that one. And just to talk a little bit more about this one, it was it's a little praise to myself. Was nominated as the best painted on the GTS. But
so this is a
not,
German what is it? GTC, isn't it?
GTC, yeah.
Yeah,
German Tabletop Championship. Yeah. And it's not because it's so amazingly painted. It's actually the paint job is very easy there. It's a couple of colors, grimes, some patina on the metals and some pigment rust on it. It's more that it's all very cohesive and it's one army. It has a very certain look to it, and I think that's what sold it as a good paint job.
The cohesion.
Yeah. And that it's very seamed, the same bases, the same kind of rust effects. They all have this grimy look. I think and a lot of people were coming in and saying how good it looks, and then they were like, "Oh, but it's not a very complicated painting scheme." I was like, "No, it's super easy. Like I could do 5 of those guys in one day easily, without any effort, like while watching a movie."
Okay. All right, so so it's more to do with. And did you know that before you approached them? Did you do a test model, or did you know that this is a style that you wanted to do before you went ahead with it?
I do some test painting, but usually not on models. I just use the sprues, some parts that I don't use. I try on them how it looks. Again, it's pure laziness. There's nothing else to that.
Well, I think everyone in the chat seems fairly impressed, so I don't think that's the case. However, everyone in the chat is so Zenil, the business says, I always use parts of the real model when converting, so I can point to it when I get pulled over by the imaginary Warhammer cops. Although 100% I now want like a Warhammer cops badge that are like, secret police. I just unveil it. I'm like, Warhammer cops. I don't know if that is a conversion or not.
Get that shit off the table.
But then Tristan has said, I stick with Games Workshop models only when converted, just in case I want to do anything with Games Workshop. However, I live 4 hours away from the closest one and might have brain worms for doing it. I do feel also that anyone not based... Like, I live in Nottingham, right? And if you live in the UK, maybe I can understand it, because maybe you're going to Warhammer World one time or a couple of times. I mean, it's 5 minutes away from me, so... It makes more sense for me than anyone else. Not anyone else, but a lot of other people. But then as soon as you're like, like the deepest, darkest, like Canadian, like village, you're like, sweet. They're like, but I'm only going to use Games Workshop models just in case. I'm like, where are they going to come from?
Where are this? They will just send you like the letters, It's like, we've seen your Twitter, and I'm sorry. If you will ever want to attend our official event, please take care of that giant, all right? Like
right now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have time until, so...
I just don't want to go for Warhammer Jail, where they just make you clip sprues forever. That's all you have to do in Warhammer Jail. That's the punishment. Sorry.
Put those little Skaven globadiers in little blisters.
That's what the guy in Warhammer Jail is still making them. Still making all the meta miniatures.
Yes.
That sounds
Like,
that sounds the
sir, can
worst.
I eat? No, not until 15 more blisters. Uh,
You have to assemble fly-in stands.
yeah.
No,
Well,
no, that's a nightmare. So how are you going to go about approaching the screaming army? Have you had any thoughts about it yet?
so I wanted to go the same way, like also go with more like grim dark theme. And I already had like the jungle, I had the desert, I had uh, like this tundra. So I decided something more man-made and go with like an old temple, which you could say resembles the vampire theme in general.
Okay.
And I'm gonna add some maybe like dripping blood and stuff like this. There's a couple of pictures there where I have just the test models painted and the base separately, where you can see where that one is moving. And
Oh, yeah, hold on. Let me go get that for you. Podcast Bros. You should be able to see. I should try and upload these somewhere for the Podcast Bros. What am I looking for?
it's a couple of flyers like this.
Oh, yes. I got it. There we go. It's on the screen,
Yeah,
available for people's eyes.
yeah. So this like broken temple bases, which I bought from micro art.
Yeah, huh?
Like this is the thing for me when I started the hobby, it was 15 years ago. There were two things you could put on your base. There was the sand and static grass, this acid green color. That was all. And nowadays, there's so much industry around this. It's crazy. Like, and it lets your creativity go wild.
It
I,
does.
I have I have the two pictures with an old model and the new model, and the amount of stuff that is just on the base.
Yeah,
Just a very
there's a significant yeah, you're right. So micro art studios do this, don't they?
yeah.
And like when I got into Warhammer Fantasy Battle, I did an entire Nurgle army on resin bases, painted them up all super nice. Then obviously Warhammer happened. Age of Sigmar happened, and I was like, I'm never going to base anything properly again in my life. Fuck you forever.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
Because I literally had like hundreds of pounds of like square resin bases. I was like, what is this? I tried like cutting them into rounds at one point. I was like, nah, can't be asked. But yeah, if you bought now into the resin stuff, like you're pretty safe. I don't think they're going to hexagonal bases at any time soon. So I think it's fine. So yeah, like, and they're brilliant because it means like you also save a lot of time. Like you don't have to do loads, do you? You just start painting.
Yeah, I mean this is where the resin parts that you glue on the base.
Mm.
But you can get also the pre-made ones, which are super beautiful and easy to work with. And yeah, I'm planning to get some of that for the little ghouls, like already made round bases. That will cost probably like 3 times the
The
ghouls,
price of the
but
ghouls.
yeah,
Yeah.
what we do for beauty.
honestly, I know that, like, so your the painting's really nice. And on
Again,
all of the
super
models.
easy. Three paints, grimes, cleanup, highlights, done.
Yeah,
It's
where
very easy.
I was going with it is though, like, really does feel like a big part of this like theming conversation has been for the whole show has been very much orientated around basing, and
I
those
think
sorts.
so. Yes.
Yeah, like and that's like, and I'd say that's a really important takeaway, because and it's also like my like key piece of advice whenever I talk about putting an army together generally, especially like if you like want that competitive element of it as well, like I talked about, like when you are allying in stuff left and right, it does start to make sense over time, if you put them all on the same basis. Like, your Seraphon army matching your Stormcast army, for example, so that Croak can be in your Seraphon army, but then also in your Stormcast army. Makes a load of sense. So yeah, like that's a big takeaway from me. Is there any other ways that you like doing basing other than like this?
Like this, you mean the pre-made one, or?
Yeah, like
Uh,
other than the
uh,
pre-made one.
no, I got tons of different flocks and tufts and like little leaves that are cut out of the actual leaves that you can glue on the base. Uh, yeah, as I said, there is a picture. There are two pictures. One was the old model, and just two of these flocks that was available at that time in the Warhammer. It was like a little orc, the 40k orc.
Yeah, I've got
And
it.
then the next one is actually the ogre. Yeah, that's all you had. I still have them right now. There is this the sand flock and the acid green static grass, and that's all you had. Yeah, uh,
So like trouser faces in the chat, faces and bases, and 3D print your face on every base is the
that
real answer. That would work.
that would be something. That
Your own face on every base.
nobody would steal your army, I can tell you that. And
That's true.
yeah, and then there's these guys. There's so many things you can put on there to create this narrative, to create the cohesion in the army, to create the mood. Like, for example, you say like it goes a lot in the bases. I agree with you, but if I would have bright, like jolly clown painted vampires on those grim dark bases, that would look still, silly. So they have to match, at least in the tone, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Like I think like some people often talk about spot color, don't they? And I actually think sometimes carrying on the base color into your model also helps a lot with cohesion as well. Like in some ways, like you've got the green on the base, and while you've got more like an emerald kind of green color running through the rest of your More Tribes army, that it's green really. Like that you're bonding them together as model and
Exactly.
base.
One
I
of the
think that's
other things, sorry for
go on.
interrupting.
No, that's it. You have to.
There's one of the other things that I did in the Stormcast army. I'm using a lot of dry pigments, like for rust and for like dusty effect. And this also helps to transition a little bit, especially with like this dusting of the boots and the bottom part of the model itself. It doesn't look like it's just a base and the model glued on top of it. You can see the dust on the boots, and on the bottom part. It gives this transition. It puts the model in that environment.
Yeah,
Like,
like when people do Sterling Mud, for instance, and then they just like
exactly.
throw it all over the feet afterwards. I mean, I'm always someone that's been a bit scared of that process generally. Although like I am tempted. I got myself some streaking stuff and some other things. I'm tempted to have a go at that at some point, sometime soon.
Dude, I use this for this army all the time. It's incredibly easy and so fast.
Mm. Okay,
It
all right.
really,
Well,
and
yeah,
there are plenty of good tutorials on YouTube for that. Takes a couple of tries and then you just go with it.
you just go crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, dust it then spray it. Tristan says in the chat. So, chat, have you got any questions that you'd like to throw out there? I'd be interested to see what if there's anything you think that we should be talking about or ask. I'm not going to drink the streaky grind, but thank you, Diedre. You can always sit down Sterling Mud with medium, and if it's not rough enough, you can look like you can look and you can dry brush it after. Says the Metron Prince. I didn't know that. It's quite cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could water that stuff down. I thought that was weird.
The cool thing with this technical paints from Games Workshop, I really love them, and they have the one that with a cracking texture, the more the mire, the mud and stuff. You can mix those, like you can have parts of them while they're still wet mixed up, and that you'll still spray over it and you paint that, and then you'll have like here, for example, the surface which is mostly this dried mud, and then you have the cracking. Like, you don't have to just use one all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They have this different color, but you don't care for it because you're gonna spray and paint on top of it, so it doesn't matter. It will give this difference in texture in even the same plane.
So a question in the chat is, do you have an Instagram? That's what we've been asked.
Yes, but unfortunately, or fortunately, only professional one. So for my work, I don't have my miniatures there. Maybe I should start another one. Yeah, maybe I should do another one.
You should. Generally, like I think Instagram is almost always the main medium for miniature painters and sculptors and other things. I feel like it's the main source. Probably by the end of the show, if you listen to the podcast back, maybe he'll have made one, and we'll include the links in the show notes and on YouTube. So you guys should be able to do that there. I think, I don't know if managing multiple accounts it would bother you, but I mean, you're not doing any other work at the minute, so you might as well.
True.
True. So sorry. And you started doing some streaming, right? Have you enjoyed that?
I started back in the first lockdown. That's why when I started also watching your streams, and I'm watching ever since.
Mm-hmm.
A bit less during the work time. Now I'm back at it. The Monday show is the best. Monday evening show, just the highlight of my week. It's a lie, but still.
Who's your favorite? Let's just throw it out there straight out.
Oh, Nathan. Is there another correct answer? I'm sorry.
I don't know what the right answer is. I just wondered. I'm sure everyone's got a favorite, and I'm sure if we did a vote, Nathan would end up as the president of the Monday show.
No, jokes aside, I think you all have a really cool chemistry, and it's fun. You bounce off each other really well. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm super fortunate. Don't War Gamer's only as good, but thanks to people like yourself who come on the show, and then all the other guys like Nick and Tom. I've been excited today. I woke up today knowing I would get to talk to my two friends later tonight, and I know it's work, but that's an exciting thing knowing you're going to go talk to your friends about the hobby that you love, and all the guys on Monday. The show is better because of everyone who's a part of the show, other than me. So I think that's actually a big positive. Anyway, have you got any shout outs or anything you'd like to do before we head out today?
Well, as I did a shout out before to my Game Workshop 2 store in Berlin. Really good guys, as I said. They're more about the hobby than selling you something. They're good at this as well. I don't want them to lose their job, but still, really, really cool guys, and they keep the local hobby going. That's very, very cool.
That's nice.
And my friends from the community, and everybody in the hobby, and everybody in the Twitch chat.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I want to thank
Okay, not
today.
everybody. Yeah,
they got a bit spicy today. I
Some
don't know.
maybe guys there. No.
Maybe everyone in the chat has just realised that the weekend's coming up and they're going to get spend.
This merchant guy that pretends to do some new ideas. No.
I know. I'm not sure about that guy.
I think ban him. And
so Gimme in the chat said, "I love this stream. I'm in the process of designing on a theme for my city's army." I think one of those things. Again, recap your four rules. I think that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, you first choose the army, but that's obvious. Then you get an idea of what is your army about. It can be I'm a shooty army, or I'm gonna go wreck faces in close combat, or a mage heavy or something. Then what helps me is to choose the realm. It doesn't have such an impact as before in terms of what artifacts you get and stuff, but it helps, as I said, to ground your army. With Cities of Sigmar, for example, you don't have to think about that much. You can say it's in the city, you have a cobblestone or something, but that's a theme in itself, you can say that. Then you go for a color scheme where I choose the main color and a couple of complementary colors that you can vary their involvement, for example, from unit to unit. Mm-hmm. Which keeps them cohesive, but also separate them in a way. Conversions, up to you, keep bashes, but that usually helps, to personalize the army. And then, the bases that would all tie it all together.
Okay, yeah, I think that's good advice, and appreciate it that you've come on the show to talk about it and show us all your work. I can't wait for you to set up that Instagram. And we can then you'll share it with the world. I think you'll be inundated with people wanting to talk to you about it. So that's fun. That'll be a nice experience. And growing the community and the hobby and connecting all those dots is super nice as well, right? And then it'll be fun. So thanks very much for coming on the show, Nick. I really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
Hope super
you had
lovely.
Fun.
Have you got Twitter? Yeah, you have got Twitter.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
I'm a busy man. I don't have time for shouting phrases in the ether of the internet.
How dare you criticize my main career?
I thought you were a DJ. Damn.
No, but I will
Did you do
link.
so well.
Nick's a regular in the chat as well. You guys, you'll have seen him in here several times. So you'll be able to talk to him. Does Nick even exist? He does. But you really are lending some sort of credence to the Russian asset ploy. But listen, we'll let that go. Anyway, thanks to everyone on the chat. You guys are great. Frothy Cat, MJ Pegasus, Gitly, Tristan, Fear the Monkeys, Diadrin, how do you do? And then also thanks to everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon and anyone who listens to the podcast. Please stay hydrated, like more than ever. I know, so it's getting cold, so you start drinking hot drinks, which means you don't drink as much water, but you got to stay pumped. It's good for the system, makes you feel well. There you go. DesertSketch in the chat is saying hi. But you guys have been great. Nick, you've been wonderful. It's been really lovely having you on the show. Thank you so
for
much.
having me.
And then we'll see you guys soon. Have a night. Oh no, wait! Do join us tonight. Very excited to get to talk to Nick and Tom talking Space Marines. It's going to be really wicked. Tomorrow, me, Darren, and Simon are going to be talking Cities of Sigmar and talking about some cool lists. So join us for that. You guys are great, and see you soon.